Hey, welcome back to the About the Labor podcast here at VikingsTerritory.com. I am BJ Reidell, back here with my guy, Drew Mahowald, and today we're talking a couple of guys coming off of the injured list, I guess, or have been scratched in recent games here. Latavius Murray, Quan Treadwell, and Riley Reiff are all set to play in this upcoming matchup on Sunday. So we'll talk about that a little bit and the importance of that. And then we'll talk about the 49ers as a whole, what matchups are important here. It's obviously going to be a lot of first team versus first team action, so this is kind of going to be our first look at what the Vikings can really do. So we'll talk a little bit about that too, and finish up with some Twitter questions that we got, and mix in some other stuff as well. We'll see what happens here. So before we get started, let's always, as always, start with a note from our sponsors here. Black Stack Brewing's brand new brewery smack dab in the middle of Minneapolis and St. Paul with a wide range of clean and flavorful brews and a massive bright tavern, perfect for intimate settings all the way to special events. Black Stack Brewing, 755 North Pryor, just north of Menards off University Avenue. And shout out to our sponsors over at Twin Cities Directory, the best way to explore delicious bites and fun-filled nights that Minneapolis and St. Paul have to offer. Check it out at www.twincities.directory. That's www.twincities.directory, helping you discover the real Twin Cities. All right, Drew, let's start off here with Latavius Murray, and then we'll work our way into Quan Treadwell and Riley Reiff after. He is supposedly we're going to finally see Latavius Murray on the field. Seems like we've talked in the past how it's kind of a little bit overdue, how we thought that he'd be back much earlier and that we'd be watching him in training camp and whatnot, but that obviously was not the case. First question, has he already lost his starting job?
Yeah, I think he has. And I think I keep going back to I really feel like the Vikings, when they did sign him, when Rick Spielman and the front office and the coaching staff brought him in, they really thought and kind of were assuming that he would be ready for training camp. And obviously, as we know, that didn't shape up. He was on the PUP list for the majority of camp. I think all of it, actually. So I think that in itself hurt his, I guess, case to be the starter. And then Dalvin Cook shows out in training camp and in preseason through 2 games. So, I mean, I can't imagine Latavius Murray has a great shot of being a starter, but I still think he's playing for a valuable role as a short yardage guy. And, I mean, a complimentary guy, because every down, like literally every down running backs now, they're not really a thing,
Yeah.
So keeping Dalvin Cook fresh, not wearing him out as a rookie is probably important, and having a guy like Murray that you can rely on, that's still a role that needs to be filled. So I think that's what he's playing for right now.
Yeah, despite Dalvin Cook having a lot of success in the first 2 preseason games and just being impressive overall so far this offseason, that might have elevated him into the being the guy that's listed at the bottom of your screen when they announce the starters on the Vikings offensive starters. Dalvin Cook might be the guy who has this picture there now. But Latavius Murray is still going to be an important cog here. Same with Jerick McKinnon. I think it's nice to finally get Latavius Murray back on the field, and especially in such an important game for the first-team offense, the dress rehearsal game, as people like to call it. It's good to see that we'll finally get a look at all of the pieces, right? Not just Latavius Murray coming back, but it sounds like we're going to get Riley Reiff back as well, and also Quan Treadwell. So we'll actually have an opportunity to see what this first-team offense is going to function like Week 1, with Quan Treadwell slotted in there as the number 3 receiver, in triple wide receiver sets, that type of thing. Riley Reiff at left tackle. It sounds like Rashad Hill will be kind of reduced to a backup role, as we kind of originally thought that he would be this week. And then obviously, as we were just talking about with Latavius Murray, we get to see him and what kind of 2 backfield sets the Vikings may run, how they might use them on the field together, and also how they might use them separately as well. Is Latavius Murray going to be that 3rd down and 1 guy, and Dalvin Cook be your first down back that gets the majority of the carries and primary running downs? Has Dalvin Cook established himself as a good enough blocker to get those 3rd down running back snaps, or is that going to be Latavius Murray's role? These are all things that we're going to finally get to be, not necessarily get an answer to, but sort of start to get some evidence as to which way the Vikings are going to go with regard to all these questions.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'll be looking at here is you mentioned Quan Treadwell coming back as well. If he really is wide receiver 3 right now, after missing all of that time with injury and missing the first 2 preseason games, not having those reps, do they just throw him in there at wide receiver 3 after all that, and kind of put Michael Floyd in the back burner, put Jarius Wright on the back burner, or do they kind of ease him into it, or maybe continue to give Wright and Floyd a shot there, despite, I guess, Floyd's suspension coming up? But that's one thing I look for. And then also Alex Boone, I think, is coming back too. I don't think he played last week.
Right.
That was kind of something I think a lot of people made that out to be something that, more of something than it actually was. There are people saying, well, Nick Easton played really well at left guard. Why don't they? Boone's job might be, in jeopardy. But I think if Alex Boone's job, if his job was in jeopardy, he would have played. So
I think that's
really
more just a product of people being,
right.
Frustrated with Boone having kind of a loud mouth and promising all these things and not really playing up to snuff through his time in Minnesota so far.
Yeah,
I don't think that it's actually realistic. It's just a frustration thing.
But he wasn't bad. I mean,
right.
He was, considering the circumstances, playing with T.J. Clemmings on the left side there. I mean, you got to give credit. So
yeah, that's definitely a fair point. I mean, I guess we're finally going to get a chance to see what he looks like next to an NFL caliber offensive tackle in Riley Reif. So and we're going to finally get an opportunity to see what this running game really looks like. This is a good defensive line for San Francisco 49ers. So let's hop into this actual 49ers lineup and sort of talk about each level of it, both on offense and defense, and how it relates with the Vikings. Let's start on defense this week. That means the offensive guys for the Vikings. Starting with the defensive line for the 49ers here, we got Eric Armstead. Remember, they're back in a 4-3 base defense now. They used to be a 3-4 look, obviously, when Patrick Willis was there. It's different now. They're back into a 4-3 under Robert Saleh, who I'm not too familiar with as a defensive coordinator, so it's we'll see what they have to offer here. But Armstead and DeForest Buckner are 2 big names that they've drafted early in the recent drafts here. Tank Carradine has come on strong, and then obviously they have Solomon Thomas, the rookie. I believe the number 3 overall pick. Number 2, something like that, right in there. He'll be a huge piece, and then Reuben Foster as well is in the starting lineup.
That's
right now.
They got both those guys, didn't they?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So the defensive line is, it's filled with talent. The linebacker group also has Ahmad Brooks and Navarro Bowman. Let's start with those 2 units here, Drew. That's a lot to face for, thinking about how that works with Sam Bradford and the offensive line.
Right.
Offensive line, I mean, this isn't a great – this San Francisco team is not very good. I think we can, say that.
Right.
But they have some talent here that's definitely going to push the Vikings starters.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny that we keep, I think a lot in the offseason we talked about the Bears being – I think clearly the worst team in the NFC North, but at the same time, there are a lot of pieces there that could make the game, both games against them, kind of trap games, so to speak. And I think the 49ers kind of offer that same type of thing. Although obviously this is just a preseason game, but there are a lot of talented players in the front 7 there. I mean, I see Ahmad Brooks and Navarro Bowman; those guys are pretty well known and have established themselves as star linebackers in this league. Reuben Foster is a top 10 talent that they grabbed at very low in the first round. And then Solomon Thomas, another guy, was a top 5 pick. DeForest Buckner, too, when healthy, has been very productive. And I see Elvis Dumerville's name on here, too. I mean,
him and Aaron Lynch are both, and Eli Harold, too. So they've got a good amount of pass rushers.
And you liked DJ Jones, too, didn't you?
Yeah, he was a solid player. I mean, he doesn't necessarily stand out a ton, but he's definitely a notable player on this defensive roster. So, I mean, yeah, you got a lot of guys that against it's a really good test, I think, for the Vikings offensive line that could use a really good test. You're getting a lot of different types of players.
All kinds of different playing styles, personnel size. I think the Vikings offensive line that's for the first time now going to be, assuming their week 1 starting 5 put together. This is a good test for them to kind of for the dress rehearsal, this is pretty good, I think.
Right. Obviously there are considerably better teams in the NFL than the 49ers, but as far as what the Vikings want to, get a good idea on, which is can they run the football, this is a good enough test because you do have a very strong defensive line. You have some very strong run-stopping linebackers as well. So this will be interesting in that regard. At the same time, their secondary has some names that are talented players or guys that were drafted, high. I'm not too familiar with any of their cornerbacks, with exception to Akello Witherspoon, who was the Colorado kid that they drafted this year, and I'm excited to watch him play a lot. But other than like Eric Reed and Jimmy Ward in their secondary, Jaquiski Tart is another name as well. There's a lot of guys that haven't really proven anything. Dante Johnson and Rashard Robinson, Kwan Williams, and then Will Redmond are the names that stand out to me. And all of those guys are, meh. So with that said, if the Vikings are able to get a push on their offensive line against this very solid defensive line, Sam Bradford should have some time to work the ball downfield, and I would expect the Vikings receivers to be able to dominate this cornerback group. So we've been talking about the theme all off-season, the explosiveness one. This is a good test to see if the Vikings can be more explosive against a secondary that, at the very least, is suspect. That's probably the best thing you can say about it.
I mean, they got a lot of homegrown kind of mid to late round picks in the secondary. Rashard Robinson and Dante Johnson, both 4th round picks. And you look at, Will Redmond's a 3rd rounder from last year. Obviously, Witherspoon's a 3rd rounder. Keith Reeser, 5th rounder from 14. So a lot of mid to late round prospects that either haven't really quite earned a name for themselves in the league or are in the process of doing so. So it should be a pretty. I mean, I like Stephon Diggs, I like Adam Thielen, I like all these guys in their matchups against these defensive backs. And you said it. If the Vikings can get some protection against that front seven, Bradford and company should have some favorable matchups on the outside to, as Pat Shurmur has alluded to make those big plays, those big spark plays that the Vikings offense lacked last year.
Yeah, so this should be a good. This game should offer a good measuring stick as to where this offense is kind of as a collective group, right? How they work in unison. How well can the offensive line block? How well can Sam Bradford work the ball downfield? And how diverse and how talented is this receiving core? We've talked about recently how this could end up being a very talented group because you've got a lot of talented potential at the top with Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, also Laquan Treadwell, also Michael Floyd. We're going to finally get an opportunity to see how these guys work against the first team defense here, and they should be able to take advantage of it. So we'll get a real look at what this offense is going to look like this season here, and this should be a good, really good opportunity for a lot of these guys to show out and really start carving out what their role is going to be on this team. Let's flip over to the other side of the ball here. So the Vikings defense against this fairly pitiful 49ers offense. Kyle Shanahan obviously took over as the head coach and will be calling the plays. So in a couple of years here, this should be I think a lot of people would project that this 49ers offense will be a lot more talented. But in his first draft, they took a lot of defensive players, obviously. We already talked about Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster. They didn't draft a whole lot of offensive guys. They're starting with Brian Hoyer at quarterback, who has looked pretty good for what it's worth during the preseason here, but it's still Brian Hoyer. At running back, Carlos Hyde and Tim Hightower are basically your 1-2 punch right now, which talented, sure. Dynamic, probably not. A lot of people will probably remember just how much Carlos Hyde torched the Vikings a couple of years back in Week 1. But other than that, I mean, the offensive weapons here, Pierre Garçon is basically your number 1 receiver with Jeremy Coley and Marquise Goodwin, who Goodwin might be a fun player to watch this year because he's very, very fast, and Kyle Shanahan might be able to work him the right way. But as a whole, man, I don't see – you look at the tight end groups too. Vance McDonald, George Kittle, who has been good. But there's not really a whole lot to work with, and Brian Hoyer isn't a guy that really elevates the play of guys around him.
Yeah, I think Andy Carlson made the joke about this wide receiver depth chart for San Francisco. It's a bunch of guys that have made a name for themselves on other teams like 5 years ago, and now they're back. Pierre Garcon in Washington and Indianapolis, Jeremy Curley with the Jets, Aldrick Robinson, I believe, with Atlanta.
Yep.
And, Marquise Goodwin, obviously, in Buffalo, too. I mean, it's a lot of guys kind of trying to find that last leg of their career, I would say. And with a cute quarterback that's not exactly an explosive thrower of the football, I guess, and Brian Hoyer, although he's a very, the term game manager, I don't really like to use it, but I think Hoyer's a very good one of those. So
I think you might be underrating his ability to get the ball downfield. Remember when he was in Cleveland with Josh Gordon and Norv Turner?
I'm not trying to knock that. Like when I say explosive thrower, I mean like a Matthew Stafford or someone like that can just launch a 60-yard dime.
Oh, you're talking about more like arm strength as opposed to decision making. Okay,
arm strength. I know. I like Hoyer's ability to direct a passing offense. I mean, we saw it last year with the Bears a little bit at the beginning of the season. It's not like he can't.
Right.
But
he's a very serviceable quarterback in the NFL.
If you get him some weapons, I think we've seen before that he could be fine. But
I mean, he crushed the Vikings. What was it? Was it 3 years ago now? When it was him and Josh Gordon, and that was when Norv Turner was the offensive coordinator.
Yep.
And Josh Gordon absolutely torched A.J. Jefferson, and this was
that would have been 2013, I think.
14, I think.
Something like that. But I know it was
13. Probably. 13, probably. Yeah. And
they were in the dome. They were in the dome still.
It was like Josh Gordon's breakout game. It was like the game that
he had 3 touchdowns. And,
yeah. He made.
But
I think
the Vikings were up by 3 touchdowns, ended up losing. So. Yeah.
Well, regardless, point being here is that Brian Hoyer is a very serviceable quarterback that will test the Vikings, assuming that wide receiver group that we just listed can test the Vikings as well. Same time now, obviously Brian Hoyer is going to need time in the pocket in order to work balls downfield against the Vikings' talented secondary. Offensive line is meh. It's not great here. You got Josh Garnett, who from Stanford at the left guard position, and Joe Staley at the left tackle position, who are very solid. But then you look at the rest of this group. Brandon Fusco is the starting right guard in San Francisco. So welcome back, Brandon Fusco. Daniel Kilgore and then Trent Brown are your other starting offensive linemen here for the 49ers. So I would expect the Vikings to get good push against this unit. I mean, this Vikings defensive line is slowly proving itself to be one of the very best in the NFL. And I see no reason as to why they can't just destroy this group. This is it's a mismatch in my opinion. Their offensive line versus our defensive line, and with Hoyer versus the Vikings secondary, I think it could get ugly very quickly. Depending on how much pressure Danielle Hunter, Everson Griffin, and co. are able to put on the quarterback.
Yeah, Brandon Fusco hasn't been good in 4 years now.
Yeah, basically since he signed his deal. Seriously.
Oh yeah. Interesting how that worked out. And then you have Trent Brown on the outside, who was a 7th-round pick a couple years ago. Looks like he'll face Danielle Hunter for quite a bit in this game, and that I like that matchup for the Vikings. Danielle Hunter, Greek god. How many? What is it? 22 something sacks in the first 2 seasons or whatever it is. I like his chances there more than not. That especially against I guess the Vikings left side against the Niners right side, that should really favor the Vikings because I believe Linval Joseph is over there as well, and then be against Brandon Fusco and or Kilgore. So that would be that should favor the Vikings quite a bit. I would be surprised if there's not some impact plays made in that first half.
Yeah. So and then as we work ourselves down the roster on the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers, Matt Barkley and C.J. Beathard will probably be the next couple guys in. I think that we will see some C.J. Beathard action this week, despite this being for the first team, dress rehearsal week. I think C.J. Beathard will get some run in the third and fourth quarters.
He's having a good preseason, that's for sure.
Yeah, so that should be fun to see him play. I know a lot of Vikings fans tend to also be Iowa Hawkeye fans and probably are interested in seeing C.J. Beathard succeed.
And George Kittle.
Yeah, George Kittle as well, who has been impressive. So there's a lot of familiar names, a lot of Big Ten guys on here. we talked about on the defensive side of the ball. We talked about all the high draft picks that the 49ers have here. A lot of people are very familiar with both Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster. So it'll be interesting to see how some of these young players have developed since we originally talked about them around draft time. Ahkello Witherspoon being a big piece of that for me. I really liked his talent as a cornerback coming out of Colorado, so I'm excited to see what he can do. And seeing if he'll get some reps against the first team. It's going to be interesting to see what that cornerback depth chart will look like in San Francisco this season, just because there isn't really a headline guy right now, and Witherspoon probably has an opportunity this week to make some splash plays against the Vikings, because I do think the Vikings will try to work this ball downfield, and he'll be a big piece of that.
Yeah, I hope they do. Not that they don't need work in the running game after last season. I get that, but I've always thought that in preseason is your time to kind of try new things, take a shot down the field, whether it be camp, whether it be practice, whether it be in a game. That's kind of why I've nitpicked Bradford a little bit during training camp scrimmages or in preseason for not taking that shot down the field. But at the same time, I also hate the overreaction the other way as well. So, it is what it is. The Niners secondary is not proven, so I think I would expect Pat Shurmur to try and take advantage of that while he can.
All right, so that's essentially what we're looking at here for the San Francisco 49ers. Not nearly as exciting as the Seattle Seahawks depth chart, in my opinion. Last week was there's far more going on with that Seattle roster than the San Francisco team, because San Francisco is so young. They have so many question marks, and a lot of their team is based off potential and what Kyle Shanahan will be able to do over the next couple of years.
Right.
This is going to be I think it's pretty fair to say this is going to be a fairly disastrous season for San Francisco. Probably
How many wins do you think?
4 or 5 at the most, I would say. Especially playing in the same division as the Rams, who have looked pretty good. Jared Goff's looking better. Seattle, obviously, and then Arizona, who's always a contender as well. So I think San Francisco's it's going to be a tough year for them, but they do offer some good things.
I think that they'll win some games with their defense. They'll play. They'll get on that scale. Arizona's a team. St. Louis is a team too. That if you those games, especially the St. Louis games, I would expect to be low scoring, kind of
right.
Where one big play either way will change it and change the game for the better for that team. So San Francisco could steal a couple of those. Yeah,
the 49ers do have that. They do have that weapon too. Marquise Goodwin could be that guy, that one-play guy.
So,
if you're trying to hit it, deep and strike gold with like a 70-yard touchdown, he is as good as a 9-route receiver in the NFL. So it'll be fun to see what Kyle Shanahan can do, man. I really liked him. Obviously, his career in Atlanta kind of came to a screeching halt.
We'll see what did
he do wrong in that Super Bowl?
Right.
He got his team scored points. It was the defense that was.
Yeah.
Quinn's
you can fault Shanahan for being too scared or conservative at the end, but you're up by 25 points. What are you supposed to do? You can't be just run the clock out is what you're supposed to do.
It's an execution thing as opposed to his game management style.
How many times did Brady throw an interception that wasn't caught that would have ended the game? Probably 2 or 3 times.
At least once or twice. So take it for what it is. I think it'll be fun to watch this 49ers team in a couple of years more than it is now, obviously. But it should be a good measuring stick for the Vikings this weekend here. So let's talk about some guys that have stuff to prove in this game. Obviously, this is I mentioned this already like a couple times. This is a dress rehearsal game, so this is some first team. There will be a lot of first-team action here. We'll see a lot less of guys like Stacey Coley and Tashawn Bauer this week, simply because they'll be probably playing, the end of the fourth quarter as opposed to, the entire second half as we've seen recently. So who are the first-team guys now? Trey Waynes, if he's probably not playing here. Who are we looking at as guys that really need to prove something? Need to have a good week this week in order to sort of maybe silence their doubters or at least head into the season on a high note?
One, I think, is Mackenzie Alexander.
Yes.
We saw him get torched last week by Doug Baldwin, which actually, Mike Zimmer said in the press conference that he thought Mac played good, which A is bad grammar, but B, because you don't say played good, you say played well. Yes. All right, for those of you listening, please don't make that mistake, because it makes me cringe every time I hear Zimmer say that.
Sam Newman hates that too.
Sam Newman does. Yeah, he's kind of the conductor of this train. But Mackenzie Alexander needs to show that he can be that reliable slot guy, and I don't think he has done that yet. And obviously, it's just preseason and it's just been training camp. But I think there's been a fair amount of times he's been beat pretty badly from what I've seen. So and he'll get a lot. I'm assuming a lot of Jeremy Curley, and I'm assuming a lot of Marquise Goodwin. I would assume in the slot there. So Curley is more of a savvy slot guy, whereas Goodwin can beat you with his athleticism. So a couple of different challenges there. Hopefully he can prove himself.
Yeah, we do need to see a better performance out of Mackenzie Alexander, and just an extension of that, Terrence Newman. I mean, I think we saw last week he was getting beat bad in off coverage. We need to see more from him, and it's starting. I'm starting to get nervous with Terrence Newman. I don't want to say I'm like, get rid of this guy. I'm not at that point by any means here, but I'm starting to get nervous. The fountain of youth has finally ran out. Right? He was beat too many times on mental mistakes that he just didn't react quick enough to last week, and so I'm concerned with him. I'd like to see him play better in this game in order to feel more comfortable with that secondary, especially with Trey Wayne suffering the injury. Xavier Rhodes has been very, very good, obviously, as expected, but there's question marks at the other two cornerback positions, which were strengths for the Vikings last year and very important cogs to their defensive success. So I need to see more from those guys. On the offensive side of the ball, I thought Mike Remmers looked much better last week, but at the same time, we saw him have an awful first week, a solid second week. I want to kind of get an answer to what his consistency is going to look like this year. Are we going to get another awful week this week? Is it going to be a roller coaster ride? Or are we going to get some more consistency from him? I know he's been a consistent run blocker, but in pass protection. Are we going to get another solid performance from Mike Remmers? So I'll be watching him on the right side as well. I think that will dictate some questions as to what Rashad Hill's role will be as well. If Remmers, starts to show a roller coaster trajectory, I think the Vikings have to look at Rashad Hill as a guy to fill in there sooner rather than later.
Right. I do know that Hill has been rotating in at right tackle this week in practice. I don't know if that means anything or not, but I know that has been taking place. So we'll see if that shows up at all or if he gets in there with the ones. But I do think Remmers kind of, as a pass protector, needs to show a little bit more because it's not like Sam Bradford's the most mobile guy in the world. But I would add that these guys that are coming off of injury, Murray, Treadwell, to an extent Riley Reef, but I think his role's pretty locked up. Right. But Murray and Treadwell specifically need to kind of show that they can still play and not have, knock off all the rust. I think they need to show that they can still play, especially Treadwell too. After last season, the chip on his shoulder should be enormous right now, and I'm expecting that it is, and I hope and I would assume his mindset's in the right spot as far as that goes. So I'm hoping for big things from him. Got to see it first, and this is his first big chance here to prove it.
Absolutely. And the last guy I'll throw in here, I think that this is an opportunity here for the punters and the kickers to kind of seal one way or the other. We've seen Semank and Forbath kind of take leads reportedly in their own way. So obviously every game is big for these specialists because at the end of the day, the Vikings are not going to keep two kickers. They're not going to keep two punters. So this is, we've got 2 games left here for them to basically prove one to force an answer one way or the other. So I think this is an important game for the punters and the kickers as well. Even though we don't really think of them as important pieces, it'll be nice to see, to finally get that special teams unit sealed, right? Start getting some answers there. So that will be good to see this week as well. So let's finish out here with any questions we have on Twitter here. I'm going to kick it over to you and let you take over there.
Yep, let me get to those quick here. I think we had one from, Cynthia Vance at Cindy Loves Vikes. Appropriate Twitter name. This is more of a take than a question, but we'll go off it anyway. I'm thinking the offense is going to light it up this season. I think Sam throws a majority of his passes for 18 or more yards, which I think she's basically saying that a lot more downfield passes will be attempted, with a lot of opportunities for Dalvin Cook, and scoring will be up. So I guess what is your general take there? I agree with most of that. So.
I think scoring is going to be up. I think the offense is going to be much better. I think that I think some of the things she's saying there are a little too optimistic.
Right,
but I am optimistic about this team. I can certainly see it being a more explosive offense. I think Sam Bradford's a good quarterback. I mean, I don't know, I'm under the opinion that Sam Bradford is going to give the Vikings the best chance to win this season of any quarterback on this roster. That includes Teddy Bridgewater. That includes Taylor Heineke. And I think that a full off season will give Bradford an opportunity to really dominate this year. He's going to have to play well in order to beat some of these explosive offenses that the Vikings are going to face. I mean, New Orleans and Pittsburgh in weeks 1 and 2. Detroit, I believe, is week 4. Tampa Bay is week 3. Sam Bradford's going to have to play well. And
those passing defenses too aren't anything tremendous by any means. Those first few weeks,
but they are explosive offenses. So
it's going to be a shootout.
The Vikings will need to score some points. So I'm with you. I'm with you here, Cynthia. I think that the Vikings will be a better offense this year for sure. I'm kind of cutting the expectations a little bit based off the ones that you mentioned in your tweet here.
Yeah. See, I've kind of been of the opinion that the offense will take a step forward this season. I mean, when you get a guy who's had 3 I think I saw that he hasn't had the same offensive coordinator 2 years in a row in his entire career. Yep. And he had 3 last year. So he's finally getting an offseason with the same guy, and he knows it's going to be the same guy going into the season. That should obviously help him a lot. Revamped offensive line, Dalvin Cook. The offense should be better, but I think the defense will take a step back, but that's not relevant to the question. Our guy Eli asked us a couple things here. Wants us to rank offensive skill players in terms of our predicted total touchdowns. So I guess I haven't really. I'm thinking Kyle Rudolph leads in touchdowns. I guess I don't really know. What about 9 touchdowns? Maybe I think he'll. I mean, what did he have last year? 8, I believe, 7 or 8.
I think it'll be Rudolph at the top, then Adam Thielen after him, then probably Latavius Murray or Dalvin Cook, one of the two. Whoever's going to be the goal line rusher, one of those two guys. Then Stephon Diggs, because I don't think Diggs is a big scoring guy. I think that he's more the type of guy that's going to hit you with like the 40-yard touchdowns as opposed to like the 2-yard touchdowns.
Yeah, Thielen. That's my thing about Thielen.
Right,
he's a red zone guy. He can be. Yeah.
Right, and so then you move down to the next one, which is again, is it Laquan Treadwell or Michael Floyd that gets those third-team receiver reps and those reps in the red zone? I think you have to lean Treadwell right now because of the suspension. So I'd go Treadwell next. So basically, just the top 5: Kyle Rudolph, Adam Thielen, Latavius. I'll say Dalvin Cook. I'm going to say Dalvin Cook, number 3. Stephon Diggs, and then Laquan Treadwell. I'd say would be my top 5 in terms of guys.
Okay, yeah, I'll go Rudolph 1. I'll go. I'm going to go Latavius Murray 2.
Okay.
But I think, I think after Rudolph, it's going to be a bunch of guys with like 4 to 5 touchdowns. Yeah. Just because I think that's how Rudolph's career's kind of been. He's always had those games with like 30 receiving yards and a touchdown.
Yep.
So I like Rudolph 1. I'll say Murray 2. I'll say Thielen 3, and then I'll say I'll probably go Cook 4, and then Diggs probably 5. I mean, I don't like that the third receiver enough yet to kind of put him in that.
That's fair.
But,
yeah.
It's a cloudy situation still. So
Bucky Hodges could somehow sneak his way in there if they start running him exclusively in the red zone.
David Morgan
too. Yeah, depending on how they use it, we still need to see what the red zone is going to look like, right? What the reps, what that alignment is.
David Morgan was in there a lot in the red zone, both as a receiver and as a blocker. So
so you've still got a lot of questions to answer there before I think we can really give an honest ranking here, but. For the most part, I think that you can assume that Kyle Rudolph, Adam Thielen, and then at least one of the running backs are going to be your top 3 scorers this year, unless Stephon Diggs all of a sudden starts catching quick touchdown passes from inside the 5.
I mean, the thing about Diggs is he's never been, for as good as he is at everything else at the receiver position, he's never been the go up and get it, contested catch type of receiver that I think Adam Thielen is, which I think is kind of why we have him above Diggs there, but. That's we can go on to Eli's.
I see Diggs having more yards and more catches. I just think Adam Thielen probably catches more touchdowns.
I like Thielen in yards. It seems like he and Bradford have that downfield connection. Not that Diggs and Bradford don't, but I feel like, especially down the stretch last year, they really connected on deeper routes. So I like that, but I think Diggs and PPR is going to be, if you're trying to pick between the two, Diggs is obviously a monster in PPR. I think he was on pace. If he had played all 16 games, he would have had like 104 catches or something.
It was more than that, like 125 at one point. Yeah.
Okay, well then, yeah, there you go. There's your answer for PPR. But Eli's second question: if you're making cuts today, who do you keep and cut on the defensive line and trade? I guess too, if you're thinking about trading somebody. But what are your take there?
Keeping Deshaun Bauer, keeping Detone Jones.
Yep.
Then obviously keeping Danielle Hunter, Everson Griffin, Brian Robinson. Probably cutting Stephen Weatherly and Will Sutton. Then obviously keeping Jaleel Johnson. And then, obviously keeping Linval Joseph and Tom Johnson as well. So I think the primary answer there is I'm keeping Deshaun Bauer, I'm cutting Stephen Weatherly, and I'm keeping Detone Jones and cutting Will Sutton.
Yeah, I think you'd have to do that. I mean, Everson Griffin, Tom Johnson, Linval Joseph,
Danielle
Hunter, Brian Robinson, Shamar Stephen, maybe. As a backup to Linval.
Yeah, he's probably the most tradable, I think, of all of them.
And then Jaleel Johnson's got to stay. Detone Jones has to stay. And Tayshaun Bauer. That's a lot of defensive linemen, though.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a tough cut there, I think. Because I listed, I think, one too many players. So there's going to be one tough cut out of it. I think
there might be two tough cuts.
Shamar Stephen might be the guy. Because, look how good Jaleel Johnson has been against the run in the season. It's unbelievable. So, if that might be a tough cut because he had a really good camp, but I still think that I think Will Sutton's gone. I think it really sucks that Stephen Weatherly is going to be gone, and it really wasn't his fault because he's been solid. But Tayshaun Bauer has just stepped up in an unreal way. So I think Weatherly's gone. I think Will Sutton's gone. I think Shamar Stephen might be gone.
That's kind of the bubble guy. That's probably the guy that probably has the most trade value, too, because I think he can play nose very well in a 3-4 alignment. Probably suits him a little bit better than the role that he plays in the Vikings 4-3 alignment. So I think that Shamar Stephen is probably the most tradable of these guys. And I think that it comes down to Bauer versus Weatherly, and I'm taking Bauer right now.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Right.
I mean, the thing about it, too, is I think there's been some comments I've seen where people are questioning, well, he's still super young. He wouldn't play a lot this year.
Right.
Why not just bring the guy that's been around and trying to keep Bauer on the practice squad or whatever? But
he's not going to make it to the practice squad.
He's not making the practice squad at all because he's been that good, and teams will scoop him up. And then B, this is a decision that you're thinking about the future here too. Tayshaun Bauer, he might not have an impact this season, but his
it's buzzing a ton right now.
No. We'll cut this.
Just reset what you were just saying.
Okay.
You start with A again. Oh, and it's buzzing again now. Just go. Just talk.
I want you to tell me if it's working.
It's good now. It's good right now.
Okay. It's good.
Still good, yeah.
Okay. Tayshaun Bauer will not make it to the practice squad. He will be poached by another team. I can 100% guarantee that. And B, this is a move you kind of have to think about the future because while he probably won't contribute a lot this season, the Vikings have always had that guy in the making in kind of in the wings waiting for his opportunity at defensive end. That was Everson Griffin about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Then it was Danielle Hunter, and it was actually Brian Robinson before that.
Yeah.
Robinson, Griffin, Hunter, and now
Robinson's on his way out too. Robinson has already talked about retirement potentially after this year. So it's important to have that next guy. And it sucks that you have to. Yeah, and it sucks that you might have to lose one of them. But it's better than to keep. If you have to lose one of them, it's better to keep the one with the higher ceiling. And I think that we can all agree that Deshaun Bauer has shown the higher ceiling between him and Stephen Weatherly. So that's where I'm at there.
And, if we want to get into this one, Jason Brown asked us after a night of drinking, who would win a 40-yard dash? So between me and you,
I'm not fast. This is not a fair question for my.
I'm not either, but I still think I would win.
This is an unfair question for my skill set, Jason. If we're talking bench press, I'll knock him out. But if we're talking 40-yard dash, I think Drew's probably faster than me. I run in the fives at this point.
I think so. We're doing a lot. For those of you who don't know, we got the live show Sunday night at Black Stack Brewing after a viewing of the Vikings 49ers game on the big screen in the brewery. But I think after the game and after the show, we should do a little 40-yard dash under the lights, aka find some lamppost or something and just run
the back room there with all.
We could do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll figure something out.
Make sure to come out to that show though. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Like Drew just said, 172-inch projector screen with the Vikings game on it. I mean, if you're not at the actual game, how much better does it get than that? And then obviously you can buy beer there too. So it's going to be a great experience. As always, it's 755 North Pryor Avenue, and that'll be this Sunday. We might do a pregame show as well this week. We're still figuring that out, but we're definitely doing a postgame show. So make sure to come out and check it out. Check out Black Stack Brewing and come visit with us, and we'll have a beer and have some fun. So hopefully we'll see you guys over there. Oh, you don't have anything to say? Okay.
Oh no. Well, we're out of Twitter questions after that. So okay. I figured we end with the Jason Brown one there. So about our 40-yard dashes. So yeah, I know. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right.
That's a good radio.
All right, so that's the end of the show then. So make sure to check us out at VikingsTerritory.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio. You know all the places to find us. On Twitter, VikingsATL Pod. Myself, Robert Reidell, Reidel, and then Drew Mahowald, Mahowald. And always make sure to check out the Vikings Territory Twitter account as well. Viking Territory. Thanks so much, guys, and we will catch you from Black Stack Brewing this Sunday later on this week.